Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to talk briefly about using citations, particularly as it applies to your capstone poster and the poster presentation you'll be doing. So this slide deck comes from Angela Lee, our health sciences librarian, and a big thank you to her for allowing me to share it and also kind of talk through it in terms of how it relates to our capstone work. Okay, so as we all know, and we've talked about in several other contexts, is that it is very important to cite your work, including in your capstone project, your poster, your presentation, as well as probably many other things you're doing as part of your capstone, whether that's deliverables for your site or other kind of related work you're doing. So it's really important to give credit to other work that you're using and to, also share with your audiences, whomever they may be, right? Where did you get this information, these frameworks, these other sources that you're using, right? So that people may also be able to use those resources and that research and scholarship in their own work. So again, just a quick refresher, if any of this content doesn't originate from you, it needs to be cited, right? So this could be quotations or phrases from work, could be paraphrasing thoughts or ideas. And what we're going to focus on a little bit more in this video is any audio visual materials that you might be using in your poster, particularly if you're going to be using photos, social media posts, and some other kind of media like that. So Angela shares here a number of different citation styles. As you know, we typically use APA, the American Psychological Association citations. And so, if you're doing in-text citations on your poster, you would do the author date, the APA style, okay? And here are some examples, standard book citations for APA, journal article citations, as well as websites. So I hope this is also a useful tool as you're putting together, again, citations for your project, as well as any other capstone work you're going to be doing this semester. And Angela's also shared, you can see how they compare to other citation styles. So again, there could be, many other types of audiovisual or images that you might be using, like artwork, photographs, maybe film or video in some cases, clip art, maps, infographics, and maybe you're referencing podcasts or some other websites or social media, webinars, that sort of thing. So here, Angela's provided what's called the minimum content for citing images. So this is the information you need to be kind of making a note of. And then you take all this information and put it together for your citation. So knowing who the author is or the creator of the work, the title of it, and I know for certain cases like photographs or some, this sort of thing may not have a title associated to it. And in that case, you give it kind of a descriptive title, a brief description that serves as kind of a stand-in if the work isn't titled. The format of the media. So for example, a photograph, where you found it, kind of the container, repository, an image source or database. They may be two separate things or they may be the same thing depending on where you find it. And the date of the creation or publication. And again, typically a URL where you found it on the web. So here's some examples. So again, if you're going to be using photographs, and they may be photographs that you have taken and gotten a media release for, and that's totally fine, but it still is really important to acknowledge where these photographs and to share with your audience, right, where these photographs have come from. So here's an example of how you might cite a photograph. And here's another photograph example. And so the other thing that this one really brings up is the Creative Commons, which you'll see down here at the end of the citation. And so Creative Commons is basically, the copyright and how this media is allowed to be used by its author, by its owner. Okay. And so you want to check to see if is it open, where anybody can use it in sort of any sort of manner. Is it Creative Commons where it's okay to be used for educational purposes or with citation, and to make sure that you're not using something that's very heavily copyrighted or regulated where the authors or owners would not want you to use it, if for your capstone project, your poster, your presentation. Okay. And this also can apply too if you're going to be presenting this at a conference, using any media in a publication. You would want to be thinking through these things as well. So it's a good thing to have on your radar. So this is an example for clip art. Typically clip art is, kind of open access, available to anybody to use. But again, important to check that out. Film or video, I will say, as folks know from other classes, this link should be change so that it doesn't have the proxy for the library, so that again, if I'm not affiliated with Pacific University but wanted to access this video or find it, I'd be able to find it without having to go through the Pacific Library. She also provides example for PowerPoint slides, if that's kind of something that you're going to be referencing. A webinar. YouTube videos. And then this is an example that she gives in terms of taking a look at this kind of infographic and from this website and thinking about how you might use it in a poster. And this is a great example too. As part of your capstone work, you may actually be developing your own website or some sort of place where you're kind of storing your capstone work. And so it may end up being where you end up citing the website that you've created, or creating, citing, for example, the webinar that maybe you've created. So there may be some examples where you are citing yourself. So here are some citation tools, which I think folks are probably pretty familiar with. We've used Zotero several times before, but there are others, and they can be helpful in generating citation tools. However, again, it's only as good as the information you put in. So it is important that you're checking kind of what data the citation generator has to make sure it's creating accurate citations. And some of these citation generators, Angela has noted, aren't as good with helping with, again, the more audio visual social media things. So there are some references. There's a article about copyright and fair use, which again, it is important to kind of look into as best you can the copyrights on any visuals that you use. I will say that, many students do end up using social media, like publicly available social media. For example, like their organization's social media accounts may post pictures that feature the students and their work, and then they are able to use those because they're, again, in the public sphere. However, it is still very important to kind of figure out how to best cite those and acknowledge, again, the source and where it's coming from. If it's coming from Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or, any platform like that. So some other references are the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which I know folks are very familiar with from our other capstone courses. And that has a whole link to kind of different we'll provide examples for different audiovisual. And then there's some other ones too, from University of Washington and Colgate University. So again, a number of resources. And certainly if you have questions about your specifics that you're hoping to include in your poster and your presentation, please do reach out. You can either I'm happy to help as best I can. And I know Angela is also happy to provide some support as needed for this sort of work. So all the best as you're working on preparing your posters and presentations. I hope this was helpful. Thanks.